and welcome to my Chatty Ramble episodes once more. Today I have the awesomely wonderful Kate Parker. So some of you who may have seen my Facebooks and been to my local groups when I was running the Andover Alternatives will have met Kate. Kate is a British medical herbalist. So she's a proper trained herbalist with letters after her name. So I know Kate because my herbalist stopped working and she recommended that I went to Kate. So that's how I met Kate. How long have I known you, Kate? When did I first come to you as a patient?
God, yes. Oh my goodness. Must be 6, 7 years.
Got to be in it.
Easy. Yeah.
Mm.
I'd forgotten that. God, isn't it funny? I'd forgotten that's how we knew each other.
Yeah, because Helen recommended me to you.
Yeah.
So before we came on, we were talking about herbalism, and I was asking some very random questions, but we will get to shortly. So, how did you get into herbalism, Kate? What took you down a herbal path rather like a traditional medical path?
So actually, the first time I really started to get properly interested into herbs was reading a book called The Clan of the Cave Bear.
God, yes. Oh my God, that's awesome.
I know, isn't it? It's brilliant. I love it. I love those series. Yeah, so Clan of the Cave Bear, and I'm going to pronounce his surname wrong, but it's Jean M. Auel, I think is how you pronounce her surname, Auel. And I just loved the idea of having something every day that was just daily part and parcel of your life to help and that was going to make you better and actually keep you well at the same time. And eventually I got to a point when I was in my early 20s when I thought, oh, what do I want to do for my life? I'm not a career girl. I've never been one. So I thought, what do I want to do with my life? And I've always been attracted to and interested in a different way of looking at health, different way of looking at yourself. And through various sort of processes of elimination, I came down to doing a degree in herbal medicine. I had no other sort of ties at the time. And I was able to then dedicate sort of my 20s, so to speak, to doing a degree, because all the other qualifications I was looking at were either 1 year or 2 years, which I knew I could add on later should I wish to do them. So I embarked upon a 5-year Bachelor of Science degree.
Jesus, that's as long as being a bloody doctor.
Yeah. So the degree, this level of science we cover is that of a junior doctor. The biochemistry that we cover, the A&P that we cover, the pathology that we cover, it's all that of a junior doctor. So the medical books I was using, and I've got up on my bookshelf, they are the medical books that doctors have in their references and their surgeries and stuff. So hence it was sort of a good 5 years worth of training. And I've got another passion of mine is horses. So if you see my Facebook page, will see that I've got another passion of horses, and that's how the name Horse Chestnut Herbals came about, because it blends the two together. And my favorite blossom is the white candlestick of a horse chestnut. Absolutely love it. So I ended up blending my two passions together. And that's how I kind of ended up in herbal medicine. I moved from horses into studying and like, what do I want to do with my life? Because this is something that I can do. I can teach, I can go into history, I can go into research. There's loads that you can do when you study herbs. It's not just, you don't have to be a practitioner. There's loads of different things that you can do. So this is something I can do for life. And it's sort of becomes who I am rather than the job I do. Just sense.
And that, I think that's it. That's actually for most of us that walk that sort of alternative complementary path. I think it's true for all of us, isn't it, Kate? It's a part of who we are.
Yeah,
it doesn't define us, but it's a part of our makeup, our DNA, a part of our essence, our soul, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's not something that you're going to stop when you're 60 and take out a pension. This is something that I know that I will keep doing in some way, shape or form for as long as I wish to. Whether it lessens, gets bigger, moves into a different angle, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. I do you know what, Kevin and I had the same conversation actually about, because obviously he's going to officially retire at some point.
Yeah.
So he wants to retire sooner rather than later. However, that's all financial, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I said, I'll get to draw my pension, but I will. My feeling is I will continue to work in some way, shape, or form doing what I do.
Yeah.
I don't have to be hanging up my pen or my phone or my computer just yet.
No, exactly. And the plants are always going to be out there. They're always going to be growing. There'll always be more ones to learn. It's a subject that every time you think you know something, it gets even bigger and even bigger,
doesn't it? And I know from when I was seeing Helen, she came with me to see my heart consultant.
That's right.
And she was quite surprised I'd asked her, but because I struggle with conventional medicine, which is why I turned to herbs, because I have awful side effects most of the time. Anyway, so Helen came with me to this particular appointment, and the consultant, oh my God, he was amazing. And there was telling him talking this complete doctor speak that I have no idea what they were saying. It was completely the foreign language they may have been talking, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But they were talking about, well, this drug does that and this herb does that, and he totally got it. And he'd also spent quite a lot of time somewhere overseas working with plants or something. Okay. He'd done something like that. Something off, not conventional. But he had what was really interesting. He had a student doctor with him. And who was there, arms folded, scowling, looking really, really displeased. Yeah. And I said to her, probably should, no, this isn't right. And they were really dismissive of it.
I know.
And it's like they were a youngster,
Yeah.
I found that the two complete, polar opposites of the medical profession, I've found absolutely incredible. They were just poles apart. But he was absolutely adamant. Yeah, of course, the combination of what I'm using, because the only drug I can take. Yep. But it doesn't knock me off my feet. With herbs, yes, absolutely, and it worked really, really well. To be fair.
Brilliant. Yeah, I have to say that the majority of the time, I catch people out. So I had to be in A&E a year and a half ago, and the doctors were doing all their medical jargon speak, and my mum looked at me and said, "Oh, what are they saying?" And I translated, and the chap looked at me and went, "Oh, are you a doctor?" Like, no, I'm a medical herbalist. Huh? But it was, and actually, to be fair, and what was really good was that he didn't dismiss me, and he was quite happy to carry on talking medical jargon. But nice. There aren't many, though. There really aren't many who are comfortable, because often actually it's slightly because they don't know it. It's difficult, and if you don't know a subject, it's really difficult for them to understand what you're trying to say. So it's not easy for them. It's not easy.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you think of, I'm going to take a stab in the dark here, what 90% of our medicines are conventional medicine, started life as a plant basis. Am I right?
Yeah, it's about that. Yep.
And so without having the plants, we wouldn't have today's medication, would we?
No. And it's just really simple facts like aspirin. It's named after meadowsweet, the analgesic aspirin.
Is it really?
It's named after meadowsweet, the beautiful, beautiful plant meadowsweet, because its original Latin name was Asperia. And because meadowsweet is high in salicylic acid, and that's where they got the name aspirin from, and that's where they started looking at it from, alongside of willow and the salix species. And you just that everyday innocuous pain relief comes straight from a plant. I mean, obviously it's evolved since then, and it's now very much a chemical rather than necessarily a thing from a plant. And it's a really good example where the medical profession, if they nail down and drill down onto one constituent, go, that's the plant, that's the bit that what makes the plant do what it does. They extract that, and now you've got aspirin that causes stomach lining issues and acid issues. Now, the actual plant itself contains something called a mucilage, which coats the stomach lining to prevent the acid erosion and the acid buildup in the throat and the heartburn. So the plant does the whole thing, whereas aspirin just does one bit of it. So, it's a really good example. And another really good example is, in fact, our Ventolin inhalers, the blue pump. So that comes from a Chinese herb called ma huang. And what they found so ma huang is a really good herb for hay fever, for asthma, for allergic conditions, and really good herb. But it's a very powerful herb, so only herbalists with a certain qualification can have access to it. It's called a Schedule 20 herb. And they extracted the epinephrine from ephedra, from this Chinese herb, realized it was really good at opening up the bronchioles and to help with dilation, to help with breathing. But what they then discovered was that it sent your blood pressure through the roof. So they had really big issues with people with blood pressure just shooting up. So then they tweaked the chemical, and now we have the Ventolin. But if you take ephedra, it does that, and it lowers your blood pressure. So, so when the medical profession are very reductionist, they look at one thing and they go, that's what it is. Whereas plants are an entirety in and of themselves. So sometimes we'll use the phrase, oh, it's just having a simple. What that means is you're using just one herb in your tea, or just one herb in your mix, or just one herb in your ointment or your balm. Whereas, in fact, that plant has got multiple actions, multiple reasons why you might want to use it. I know, it's just so cool. I love these things. I love it.
I've got to say, I love herbalism. When you're talking, so anything that's like this plant-based, essential oils, flower remedies, herbalism, they're just my go-to, because they're natural. But of course, people that maybe are new to herbalism or new to essential oils, do not be fooled that because they are natural that they are safe. They are highly potent.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's what people have this idea about herb medicine. Oh, it's nice. Oh, just go and pick a flower. That'll make you feel better. Or have a cup of tea. And it's just a nice, gentle little thing. Actually, they're really powerful. I mean, you look at what people consider poisons. You look at belladonna, for example.
Oh, yeah, because that's a poison. But this was the heart attack treatment came from belladonna.
Yep. No, digoxin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so digitalis. Now, because of my qualifications, I have both of those in my dispensary, and I use them because I can. No, not digoxin, sorry. But I have them in my dispensary. But they are really, really powerful. They're what we call Schedule 20, where their therapeutic dose overlaps, is very close, to their poison dose, to their toxic dose. So you have to know exactly how much you give and how to manage it and what to look out for, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, like you say, herbs can come across as lovely and gentle and soft, and nothing can go wrong with them. Everybody's got a bit of ginger in their cupboard, or a bit of thyme. But actually, these plants are really powerful, much more powerful than people give them credit for, and not just purely on that physical format either, of influencing the physical health. They influence our emotional health, our mental health, and they can influence what's the best way of putting it? They can influence our energetic being, our spiritual side of us.
Spiritual element, that spiritual side. Interesting. So things like, obviously using mixed herbs and thyme in your cooking, and because the doses are relatively small, aren't they? They're all fairly safe, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Now I know when the lurgies are around, apart from using your Fire Cider, which is amazing, because Kate does workshops. Oh my God. I thought she was going to send me out as a naughty girl to work with my friend, and we were messing
That was
about
hilarious.
but that fire cider vinegar was, oh my word,
It's amazing, isn't it?
it's very good. So, of course, the quantities that you use and how to use it and how to make it, everything was, is all controlled.
Yeah.
And if you want thyme tea, like if I've got the lurgies, it's thyme tea with ginger, garlic, spoonful of honey, and but then I've got probably 15 years of using herbal remedies behind me. And then I just ring Kate and say, Kate, either can I have an appointment, or two, is this safe?
Yeah.
So those kind of things in your cupboard as a staple are relatively safe, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. But don't go picking, all kinds of weird plants and like mushrooms and
I mean, one of the biggest things is that the more if you don't know what it is, don't pick it. Simply that. Really just keep down to that boil of thumb. Go with a book, go with either somebody who knows, or go with a book. And there are some great forages out there, some great books out there as well. Just go with the book and spend a bit of time and just start to, even if you only sort of look at for 2 plants, really get to know those 2 plants and go, oh yeah. And it's really satisfying, because when you pass a hedgerow, it's not just a whole load of green leaves. It's like, oh, that's plantain, and oh, I can see the dandelion leaves coming through, or oh, that's a bit of lady's mantle, or that's a bit of wild carrot coming through there. And it gets really exciting, because then it's not just a mass of green leaves, it's actually some living, breathing plants.
It's wonderful, and it's a double-edged thing, isn't it? It's because on one hand, it's very much bringing us back into that shamanic medicine, in your case, medicine woman of our old traditions.
Yeah.
So it can bring us back into touch with nature, when we are so disassociated with nature and the seasons in so many ways because of just the way life is today.
Yeah.
So it brings us back to that, but it also brings us. There's something about herbs, and this is again from my own personal experience, that there's some kind of, they sort of harmonize and rebalance the body, rather than working on, because obviously if you're talking traditional medicine, which obviously has its place.
Yeah.
You're having a heart attack or a broken leg, you need to go to A&E.
Yeah. If you're having an asthma attack, you want oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to do steam inhalation. You want to go to A&E. Absolutely.
Exactly that. So everything has its place, of course it does, because everything's about balance. But herbs somehow work with the holistic. They work with the entire system, is what I find, rather than isolation. Just because you've either got high blood pressure, or you've got gout, or you've got a headache, or you've got whatever you've got, they work holistically, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find is really lovely is that somebody will get a blend and they'll go, oh my God, this is delicious. God, this is really nice. And I'm looking at them thinking, it is. Okay, that's great. Brilliant. I'm just going to roll with this one. Because often so behind me are my tinctures, and they're an alcohol-based preparation, and they can be quite pokey, they can be quite fiery, and they are what's what I'm looking for? It's an acquired taste with taking tinctures. I think you'll agree at times. Yeah. And I'll have people go, oh my God, this is really lovely. I'm just absolutely craving it. And then about 5-6 weeks later, they'll say, Kate, have you changed it? And I'm like, no, I haven't done anything. I haven't changed the supply. It's the same mix. Absolutely nothing has changed. Nada. And they'll say, oh God, it's horrible. Can't stand it. And it doesn't mean that the herbs, I've changed it. It doesn't mean that something's gone wrong with them. It simply is the body saying, thank you very much. I needed those. No, I don't. And it just tells you you don't need it. And it's such a great tell. And it's also a really lovely moment for you to be able to say to the person, actually, you're doing great, because you're listening to your body by stopping. Absolutely fine to stop, because that's your body saying you don't need those herbs anymore. Then we have a conversation about where they're at and what do they need now. And that's just fantastic. And like you say, that is where the herbs then actually are working, not on the physical, not on the physiological. They're working on that holistic level. They're working on that energetic level that actually brings the body back into harmony. And it says, yeah, you know what? I needed those. No, I don't. And that is just fabulous. I love it when I have those moments. Love it.
Yeah, I've experienced that a lot over the years. And the current tonic that you've given me, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for it to go, God, Kate, that's vile. What have you done? That happens. That change. There is that change.
Yeah.
But at the
absolutely.
moment, I'm absolutely loving it.
And the other thing is that it's sometimes there's the simplest. So you can have some really complex. So one of the best maxims I was ever taught was that the more complex a picture, the more simple you make the prescription. And that just helps you, because quite often, a lot of the time, I should say, I see people who have done everybody, who've gone lots of places, and by the time they come to see me, the picture is quite complex. There's loads of different symptoms going on. There's a lot of history that I've got to unravel. And so you end up with this really quite complex picture. So you start with keep your things simple, and then work from there. And it's amazing, by doing that, it really makes a difference. And so somebody I'm sort of helping with, I use something called aromatic waters with them. Now, aromatic waters is part of the distillation process for getting essential oils. And they are really simple, but they're very, very beautiful, and they're very, very strong on people's energies. And this is somebody who's, as quite, like I say, quite a complex picture, and she has just 2 aromatic waters, and she's gone from not eating to having an appetite and wanting to cook. And that, when I say not eating, I'm talking for a number of years, for lots of reasons. There's lots of reasons why. Not eating problem, just other reasons. And within 3 weeks, she was wanting to cook meals for herself. Her taste buds had expanded, and it was just 2 herbs, just 2 herbs.
Wow.
And that was purely on an energetic basis. I wasn't working on any of the physical or anything like that. I was keeping it really simple, and it was just enough. So sometimes you don't need to work on the physical to have an impact on somebody's health.
I love it. So you trained as a British medical herbalist, didn't you?
Western medical herbalist.
Oh, Western medical. Sorry,
Yeah.
I haven't had your title wrong. I do apologise.
That's
But
okay.
you also do TMC, traditional Chinese medicine, don't you? TCM rather,
Yes.
traditional Chinese medicine as well.
Yes.
So was that an extra course you had to do alongside after your 5 years, or was that a part of your 5-year training?
No, this was separate. This was separate. So prior to doing the TCM, I actually then trained as a first aider. So I've got my FREC 3. So 1 down from a paramedic and up from your basics. And I used to do first aid, and I used to do first aid at festivals as a herbalist. But you had to have your FREC 3 in order to be a first aider. And I love doing those. And that's herbal medicine at the coalface. You know, if someone comes in with a headache, you've got to give them something that's going to get rid of the headache. And that was brilliant, because you really got to see herbs working hard and fast. They weren't going to sit around and have a lovely conversation and be 2 weeks. They needed something that was going to make an effect within an hour. End of. So it was such a great learning curve. Loved it. And then from there, I then studied TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, with 2 herbalists who specialize in that, and really enjoyed those. And I find that TCM really resonates. And I understand it intuitively. And that's just fantastic. And then I recently, in the last 3 years, I've started sort of going, right, where did my interest first come from? Where did I first develop a resonance with herbs? Where did that come from? And it was from back to that book, back to the Clan of the Cave Bear. And it was that whole just being able to walk out into the garden and getting some hawthorn flowers and making a hawthorn flower tincture, you know, going out and getting some plantain, going out and getting some nettle, all of which are fabulous plants that work on so many levels. So I've decided to start exploring our traditional medicine in this country, which is humoral medicine. So Western humoral medicine, it's got this official title, and it has to have a title because it was in the early 2000s when the European Herbal Traditional, sorry, EHTP, European Herbal Traditional Practitioners Association came into being along with the EC. And because they realized there were quite a few different modalities practicing within Europe, we had to be given official titles. So we were actually at that time just herbal medicine.
Yeah.
Western, now we're Western herbal medicine, and it's sort of expanded into Western humoral medicine. So I've started to learn with a practitioner down Chichester way who specializes in this. And that's been fantastic. It's been a really lovely sort of reintroduction to my native roots. And the humoral medicine is your sanguine, your choleric, your phlegmatic, those ones. And that's when we start talking about connections to astrology and connections to the planets and how the plants mimic attributes to the planets. So for example, nettle is a herb of Mars, for example. So nettle, strong, fiery, warrior-like, going to get in there, don't mess around, no punches pulled, kind of character. And that's what nettle does. Nettle gets in there, and it's, if you think of the plant, it's fibrous, it's tough, it's going to get in there, you can't beat it down, it just grows up again, it's that perennial weed. And so it's great. And I've really enjoyed exploring and learning our native and our natural traditional roots.
Wow.
Sorry.
So not at all. So in a nutshell, how long has your entire training been to date?
Oh my God.
How many years and months?
I would say I've done 8-9 years of training.
Wow.
On and off.
Yeah, exactly, because you're continually updating,
Yeah,
learning, because obviously science can, because obviously there is a science behind the herbalism.
Yeah.
And so obviously science is finding new ways of working with herbs and how, and all this kind of thing. So of course I guess there's more to learn as these discoveries appear.
Absolutely, very, very much so. And you see that a lot with Lyme disease. I mean, that's a really big one where the herbs are really making a massive difference to people's health. So, and it's things like that. And so there's lots of learning going on in there that's coming through. And then also there's bigger understandings about how different herbs and different mushrooms can support those who are neurodivergent, and the impact that life and society and culture has on them. There's a lot of evidence that's coming through about the herbs and their health as well. So it's quite exciting science times for both those fields. It's quite exciting at the moment.
I love it. Amazing. So I know when I first started talking to, it may have been Helen, about herbs that will support sort of things like the ADHD, ADD, autistic spectrum. And at the time, this was a lot of years ago. So this was probably 15 years ago.
You with Helen?
Yeah, so it would have been with Helen. There wasn't a lot out there at the time. There was stuff that would help me either calm or support, because obviously what you're looking at is a stimulant that doesn't overstimulate. So it mimics the Ritalins of the the herbal world, but they weren't suitable. And so, excuse me, where were we? ADHD. Yes, so I know when I was speaking to Helen, there wasn't a lot out there, but obviously things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
In recent years. So, are herbs safe for tiddly toddlers like babies and animals?
Yes.
Are they?
There you go. Short and sweet.
Wow.
No, I mean, herbs are in the right hands. They're safe for toddlers. They're safe for, I've got an 88-year-old that I support at the moment. Because part of our training is all about, obviously, about what different drugs people are taking. So we have to know how they work. And we have to know, therefore, what herbs will increase their efficacy, so you may want to avoid those. So you have to know your herbs. But yes, in a nutshell, very, very much so, very much so. I mean, there's lots that can be done, and babies and small children respond really, really quickly, really quickly. And one of the best ones, I just love good old chamomile, wonderful herb. It's one of my favorites. Like babies who are teething are often constipated, and they often struggle to have a poo when they're teething. And you just simply, one of the easiest ways to help, and it makes a difference time and time again, I have people say it makes a difference, is that you just simply brew up a teapot of chamomile tea and you leave it to the side for 30 minutes. When I was doing it, I actually forgot, because being a new mum, you tend to sort of forget an awful lot, and I'd forget it. And then you just simply pour that into their bath water and you leave the baby, obviously, sorry, you place the baby in the bath water.
Do not leave the baby in the bath water.
Do not leave the baby. Place the baby. God, this is really not going well, is it? Place the baby into the bath water. And just simply doing that, and you can do that once, twice a day, do it on a daily basis. You're not necessarily trying to wash the baby. You're not trying to clean the baby. But yeah, within a number of days, everything's starting to move again. And it makes a difference. The teething starts to settle. They're in warm water. They're in that chamomile tea. It's anti-inflammatory. It's soothing on the digestive system. It's calming for the nervous system. It's absorbed through the feet. It gets expelled through the lungs. It helps to with the pain. It's a mild analgesic. It ticks all those boxes, and it's safe as anything. And all you're doing is bathing your baby in the chamomile tea, and it makes a difference. I just, simple things like that. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes for small people, it is complicated, because they might come up with various presentations that actually require a little bit more in-depth, a little bit more rounded approach with multiple herbs that complement and strengthen with each other. But most of the time, you only need one or two herbs for children to start responding and making a difference to. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Wow. And what I didn't know until you did the talk for me, Andover Alternatives, and no Soul Tribe, that you don't have to take them internally. As you just said, you can have them in the bath.
Yeah.
You don't like the taste of something, or you can't get something down little ones because they go, don't like the taste, thank you very much. Bath.
Yep.
Soak the feet in it. I had, I didn't know that, and I think that's, if there's something you really, really do dislike the taste of. Now, I had a friend a few years ago who was having awful problem with the menopause, but really disliked sage.
Yeah.
So, a sage bath, would that have helped?
Yeah, sage foot soak.
Yeah.
Yep. Sage foot soak, or a sage hand soak as well. Painful joints into a hand soak.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, with sage or with other herbs?
If we're looking at painful joints, you'd be looking at doing a nettle hand soak potentially.
Okay. So, like, if you got nettles grown in your garden or along the roadside, how many would you do? Leaves? Do you do stalks? Do you do like 20 bunches of nettles? What's the quantity? Is there a quantity that's like safe or not safe?
No.
Okay.
So basically, you'll find that it's one of those. Actually, if you go with, I think I've got enough, you'll have enough. If you're harvesting and going, do I need some more? I was going to grab those bits there. That will be enough. You'll be surprised. I don't know if you found this, like, for example, when you're blackberry picking, you'll have a bush full of blackberries, but you won't pick all of them. You'll pick some of them, and then you'll go, no, I'm done there, and you'll move on. But you won't have necessarily consciously thought, I'm leaving it for the birds, or that one's doesn't look totally ripe. And they all might look ripe, but you don't pick all of them. It's quite interesting. I was noticing myself and watching the children do that. Same thing with nettles. You'll pick what you need. A good rule of thumb would be, if you've got a cafetiere, one of that size cafetiere.
For those that are on podcasts that aren't seeing us, what about the normal sort of 4-cup cafetiere
yes,
size?
Yes, 4 to 6 cups. 4 to 6 cups. Yes, thank you. Yeah, 4 to 6 cups. And a good rule of thumb would be, if you've got a cafetiere, one of that size cafetiere. 4 to 6 cups. Yes, thank you. Yeah, 4 to 6 cups. Yes, 4 to 6 cups. And I would just use that as a rough rule of thumb and to fill it. You don't need to squash them down and fill it. Use that as a rough rule of thumb, and you want to take the top 6 inches of any plant. So at the moment, the nettles are in absolute fabulous place right now. I mean, they're young, there's so much energy, everything's coming up out of the roots and up into the leaves, which is why we want to harvest the leaves at this time of year. Roots we harvest sort of October, November, when all the energy's gone back down under the ground. And that's when you want to harvest your roots, whether it's a dandelion or your nettle. Nettle leaves, top 6 centimeters or so. Yeah, about 6 centimeters, so 3 inches, 3 inches, roughly. Those are what you really want to be aiming to harvest, and just take the whole lot, stem and all. Don't faff around with trying to pick the nettles, just stem and all. Get your scissors, cut them using your scissors, put them into the cafetiere, poke it down a little, fill it up. You might find, and that's a really good rule of thumb. One of the things you can do is use that as a starting point. When you pour your boiling water over it to either make a hand bath or for you to drink it as a tea, when you pour your boiling water over it and you've decided to leave it in for 2 minutes, and then you push the top down and then it squashes it all down, you might go, oh gosh, no, that's too strong for me. That's fine. Fill it half full next time and do it for maybe 3 minutes infusion. So you can start with one, like a good recipe, start with the recipe and then tweak it according to your personal tastes and what you're particularly looking for. With nettles, I like all plants, preferably not pick them on the side of the road because they'll have absorbed all the fumes from the cars, etc. Ideally, not where dogs happen to be walking as well, kind of like yeah, exactly. In an ideal world, you'd pick them alongside a farmer that's alongside of a field that's organic, in a wonderful world. You kind of use your common sense. Use your common sense when you're looking for things like nettles.
So what do you use nettle tea for in particular?
Nettle tea, I use it for sore joints. I use it for those who are tired. I use nettle tea for hay fever and allergies, the allergy responses. Nettle tea, if a child has ended up in stinging nettles, I'll make a nettle and chamomile tea and stick them in a bath of nettle and chamomile tea to reduce the histamine response. So if they a rash, so we have a wonderful DIY growing of nettles in our garden, and just occasionally the children end themselves, physically in the nettles. So I have to put them into a bath. You can't just do a nice little bit because it's actually the whole body, not just a patch on the hand. Stick them into a bath with some nettle and chamomile tea brew, and I'll stick that into their bath water, into some tepid bath water with that brew, and within sort of 20 minutes, and they drink the tea as well. And within about 20 minutes, everything has calmed down sufficiently. Wow. But I also use it. Nettle tea is also really good for time of the month. It helps with the blood flow, so it helps the blood flow to flow. It helps to reduce any sort of clotting. It helps to then get it. It stops it from dragging out. It actually sort of helps the period to finish.
That's good to know.
Yeah. But it's also, like I say, it's really good for ligaments as well as for sore joints. It's also really good for ligaments and tendons as well. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I see. I've done my knee tendon, my patella tendon. Oh, it's better than it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been dragging on for months. Oh, so is that a drink nettle tea or is that bathing nettle tea?
No, that would be a drink.
Okay, I might try that. I'll go and raid the garden for nettles to see what we've got.
So when you're looking, for example, with that, you would need to drink nettle tea every day, at least 1 cup every day for a good 2 weeks for you to be able to say, how is it making a difference?
Okay, I shall experiment and report back.
Very good.
Wonderful. So dogs. So before we came on, we were talking about the girls because we've both got 3 rather large dogs, haven't we?
Yes.
So are there herbs that are safe to use with dogs for normal run-of-the-mill illnesses, or would that be a holistic medical herbalist vet person?
So yes, herbs are safe for dogs, with the caveat that dogs, I believe, like horses, have a slightly different physiology to ours. So, for example, I know that St. John's wort is not good for horses. The best way, if you really wanted to look at alternative health for your dog or your cat, would be to contact your local integrated holistic vet. Now they are around the country. There's one in Southampton, there's one in Petersfield, and I know that you would think you're going to see if there's one. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing one around Andover, but they could have easily moved. I do use herbs on my animals. In this country, you have to be a vet in order to treat even the most simplest of ailments with our animals. If you were to go
Really
to
strict, isn't it?
it's really, really strict. It's really strict. It comes under supplements, which is why people can sell them. Again, it's the herbs that that you can easily do yourself. Are your chamomiles, is your nettle, is your plantain, are the cleavers, for example, that are just coming through as well. Cleavers, sticky willy.
Oh, sticky willy, yeah.
Yep. Again, make a bath out of it. So if the the dog has got an itchy coat, sometimes there's loads of reasons why dogs will have itchy coats, but one of the things that you can do is you can make a chamomile tea again and just use that. Once you've given the dog a wash, pour that over like you would like for the hair rinse. If you're doing a rosemary hair rinse for your hair, or a sage rinse for your hair, you would do the same thing. You shampoo, you do all of that, and then you pour over your herbal tea over the coat and over your hair, but you don't rinse out. But there are, and dogs do respond well. They do respond well, and because they can't tell you, you have to go off signs and symptoms. But because they can't tell you, you can see that it works.
Absolutely. I know, because one of my girls sees the chiropractor regularly, but before she could even see the chiropractor, we had to get consent from the vet that she could see the chiropractor, and she had to go and see the vet. Then the vet had to sign the paperwork, then send it back to chiropractor. It's a bit of a rigmarole, but I completely get why, because it's protecting the animals.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I love it. Kate, as always, it's been amazing.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, always lovely to talk to you. I'm going to definitely have you back, I think, because I'm going to talk to you for ages. And maybe any of our listeners may have some specific questions they'd like to talk to you about.
Absolutely, happy to.
So do drop questions in the chat box below, or on Spotify, or wherever you see your usual podcast, Spotify, Amazon, and I think we're also on Apple. I don't think what it was called.
Well, at least you got the right fruit. You got the right fruit.
Yes. So I will see you all in the next podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Kate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll put obviously Horse Chestnut Herbals is your website.
It is.
Do you have social media as well?
Yes, I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Horse Chestnut Herbals?
Horse Chestnut Herbals. I keep things really simple. It's easier for me to remember. It's less faff.
So if you want to know more about Kate's work, you can find her through her Horse Chestnut Herbals, but of course we'll put all her links below for you as well. Thank you so much for joining me on the Chatty Ramble, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.